In the hush of the night, when the world begins to dim and the sounds of daylight fade into the slow rhythm of breath and thought, there is a whisper that lingers just beyond the edge of reason. It is the whisper of old stories, older than writing, older even than the languages that first carried them. The fire burns low, the air cools, and in that soft flicker between shadow and flame, the human mind begins to imagine. Faces take shape in the darkness. Eyes gleam from the trees. Shapes move where nothing should. And from this strange borderland between fear and wonder, the creatures of legend are born. We often think of myth as something distant, the echo of another world, separated from our age of science and reason. Yet even now, we still look for meaning in the dark. We listen for what stirs beyond the horizon, in the forest, beneath the sea, in the corners of our minds that remain untouched by light. There is something deeply human in our need to name the unseen, to give form to the shapeless. Long before telescopes and laboratories, before history and certainty, there were storytellers, watching the storm, the waves, the wild eyes of animals, and weaving them into something larger than life. Every creature of legend carries within it a fragment of truth, a reflection of who we were when the world was new. Imagine standing at the edge of an ancient forest, long before cities and roads. The canopy above blocks the stars, and every sound seems to breathe with intention. A rustle might be the wind, or perhaps something watching. In such places, imagination is not a luxury, it is survival. The unknown could be danger, and so it became a shape, a creature, a story passed down to keep others safe. The monsters our ancestors feared were not random fancies. They were maps of caution, drawn in the language of dreams. A ripple in the water became a serpent. A strange footprint became the mark of a giant. A cry in the night became a warning from spirits unseen. And so humanity began to populate the dark. Every culture, separated by oceans and mountains, dreamt its own inhabitants of the unknown. In the far north, the lights of the aurora were said to be the fires of sky foxes running across the heavens. In the islands of the Pacific, spirits were said to dwell in stones and waves, moving unseen among fishermen. In the deserts of Africa, shadows stretching across dunes were thought to be the movements of ancient beings buried beneath the sand. Wherever we looked, and could not explain, we told stories to make the world whole again. What is remarkable is how similar these stories are, not in detail, but in spirit. The dragon of China and the dragon of Europe share little in temperament or form, yet both emerge from the same impulse, to make sense of power beyond comprehension. The sea monsters of the Vikings and the water spirits of the Japanese fishermen both echo the same awe toward the deep. It is as if, no matter how far apart we were, humanity shared a single dream, spoken in many tongues. The creatures of legend became bridges across distance and time, connecting generations through the simple act of wondering. But these were not always tales of fear. Many creatures were protectors, guides, or teachers. The phoenix, reborn in flame, symbolized hope after destruction. The qilin, gentle and pure, appeared to herald wisdom and peace. Even the most fearsome beings often carried a message, not just a warning of danger, but a reflection of balance, of nature's duality. To tell stories of monsters was to understand that darkness and light are never truly separate. Where there is terror, there is also beauty. Where there is death, there is also renewal. As centuries passed, myths changed shape, but they never vanished. They became paintings on temple walls, carvings on stone, verses in holy texts. Later still, they slipped into fairy tales, lullabies, and the quiet pages of forgotten manuscripts. Yet beneath every retelling, the pulse of the original mystery remained. We told these stories by candlelight and later by the glow of screens, always with the same yearning to look into the unknown and find meaning reflected back. Tonight, as you listen, the same stars that watched our ancestors still gleam above. Somewhere, the ocean breathes, the forest rustles, and the mountains keep their silent vigil. The creatures may have changed, their names and faces softened by centuries of retelling, but the need that created them has not. It is a quiet need to believe that the world still holds secrets, that there are corners of reality untouched by explanation. We may no longer sit around fires to trade stories of dragons and spirits, but we still pause at the edge of the dark, wondering if something might be there. Every myth begins with a question. What if? What if the ripple on the water isn't just the wind? What if the strange light in the forest isn't just reflection? What if the stories we've inherited are more than the echoes of imagination? What if they are traces of forgotten truths? These questions lie at the heart of human curiosity. They're why we built temples and telescopes, why we explored the seas and the stars. Each story of a legendary creature, no matter how impossible, is a thread in the vast tapestry of our attempt to understand existence. And so, this journey begins not as a search for monsters, but as a return to wonder. Through ancient myths and modern discoveries, through whispers passed down for millennia, we will wander the boundary between history and mystery. We will meet the dragon, the siren, the shapeshifter, and the hidden folk, not to prove or disprove their existence, but to listen to what they tell us about ourselves. The creatures of legend may dwell in dreams, but their truths live in the very real, human longing to connect the seen and the unseen. As the music softens and the fire fades to embers, the narrator's voice lowers to a calm murmur. Perhaps it was never about believing or not believing. Perhaps it was always about remembering. Remembering that somewhere in the dark, when the wind shifts and the world falls still, the old stories breathe again. And in that breath between fear and fascination, we find the essence of what it means to be human, to wonder, to imagine, and to dream beneath the same eternal moonlight. Long before the first written histories, before cities rose and maps traced the edges of the known world, humanity lived in a landscape dominated by fire, water, and shadow. Life was intimate with danger. Every rustle in the grass, every crack of a branch, every roar in the distance was a signal to be observed, respected, and remembered. It is here, in the delicate tension between survival and imagination, that the first myths of monstrous creatures were born. Around the flickering warmth of a fire, our ancestors began to speak of beings that were neither fully animal nor fully human, beings that could command the elements, haunt the forests, and dwell in the deep waters where eyes could not follow. These stories were not mere entertainment. They were early guides encoded with caution, knowledge, and wisdom passed from one generation to the next. In them, fact and imagination danced together, inseparable and potent. Consider the storm. Thunder shakes the sky, lightning cleaves the clouds, and rain pours down in relentless sheets. Without knowledge of atmospheric science, it is no surprise that early humans imagined a powerful being behind this fury, a giant, a bird, a spirit that could awaken destruction at will. In North America, some tribes imagined the thunderbird, a bird so immense its wings could stir the wind and its cries summon lightning. In Europe, dragons belched fire and shaped the land with their fury. These myths emerged as attempts to personify the world's forces, to make them knowable, to give them form and narrative. When people could not control the storm, they could at least tell its story and teach others how to respond, how to survive. Volcanoes, too, inspired terror and reverence. The tremors beneath the earth, the sudden eruption of molten rock, the clouds of ash blotting out the sun. These natural events demanded explanation. In places like Japan and the Mediterranean, fiery serpents and dragons were imagined as the breath of gods or monsters sleeping beneath mountains. To watch the earth shake and burn was to witness a force beyond comprehension, and humans gave that force a name, a story, a form. Myths served as both warning and wonder, blending awe with instruction. Children learned to respect the land, to fear what they could not see, and to marvel at its power. The ocean, too, became a cradle of imagination. Vast, unpredictable and unfathomable. It could swallow entire villages in storms or provide bounty beyond measure. Sailors spoke of great serpents, of massive beasts that lurked in the depths, of creatures with eyes like lanterns floating in the dark. Some of these sightings may have been whales glimpsed in poor light, or the drifting forms of giant squid, yet in the telling, they became legendary. These stories framed the sea not as a mere body of water, but as a living entity, capable of judgment and of mystery. It was a way for humans to confront the unknown with narrative, to explore danger safely from a hearth. Even the forests and plains, the rivers and deserts, inspired imagination. The rustling of unseen creatures, the sudden disappearance of prey, the shapes of shadows moving across moonlit terrain. All these became fodder for storytelling. Giants, spirits, shapeshifters, and guardians filled the spaces that humans could not explain. The creatures were often moral agents, teaching lessons about respect, greed, courage, or humility. They were mirrors reflecting human fears and desires, coded in the language of survival. To listen to these stories was to learn about the world, about human nature, and about the delicate line between caution and courage. Interestingly, while myths often emerge from fear, they were rarely simplistic. They were intricate, nuanced, and culturally specific. In Africa, serpentine water spirits were said to punish those who disrespected rivers, but bless those who honored them. In Oceania, trickster beings taught lessons about adaptability and cleverness. Even in cold regions like Siberia and the Arctic, spirits and monsters embodied both danger and guidance, teaching respect for the harsh land. Across continents, humans responded to the unknown with imagination, crafting creatures that were at once terrifying and meaningful. The creation of these myths was deeply intertwined with human observation. Early humans were keen watchers of nature. The migration of animals, the movement of clouds, the cycles of the moon. They recognized patterns and sought explanations. When they could not find answers, they filled the gaps with stories that reflected the rhythms of the natural world and the patterns of human experience. In essence, myth was early science in narrative form, an attempt to predict, explain, and prepare for what might come. The stories were never static. They evolved as humans traveled, traded, and observed. A storm bird in one region might become a dragon in another, yet the underlying meaning, the awe of uncontrollable power, remained constant. And so, around flickering fires and beneath star-filled skies, humans gave shape to the unknown. They gave it wings, claws, eyes that glowed, and voices that could chill or comfort. They did not simply imagine monsters. They imagined forces, principles, and lessons. Every creature of legend was born from a mix of fear, observation, and creativity, a testament to humanity's deep desire to understand and inhabit the vast, unknowable world. These early myths were the roots of storytelling as we know it today. They were passed down orally, changing subtly with each retelling. They shaped culture, art, and religion. They provided a framework for understanding not only the physical world, but the moral and emotional worlds of human experience. And those centuries have passed, the echoes of these tales remain, carried in literature, film, and our collective imagination, reminding us that humanity has always looked to the dark and asked, "What is out there?" In this exploration of creatures of legend, we return to those first whispers beneath the moonlight, tracing how early humans wove the fabric of myth from fire, wind, water, and shadow. We see that myths are not mere fantasies. They are expressions of human ingenuity, curiosity, and the need to understand a world that is vast, unpredictable, and often terrifying. In the delicate balance between fact and imagination, the first creatures of legend were born, and in their creation, humanity found not only caution but also wonder. Dragons have slithered through the pages of human history for millennia, their forms shifting as cultures breathed life into them. Yet their essence has remained remarkably consistent, creatures of immense power, awe, and mystery. In the east, dragons soar through clouds, long serpentine bodies winding like rivers in the sky, claws outstretched, eyes glowing with wisdom. They are not mere monsters, but symbols of prosperity, good fortune, and cosmic balance. In China, emperors claimed their lineage from dragons, connecting their authority to these celestial beings. The dragon's breath was not only fire but also life, rain, and abundance. A reminder that power need not be destructive, that the sublime can carry benevolence as easily as terror. In contrast, European dragons emerged from the dark forests, high mountains, and subterranean caves as embodiments of chaos and greed. They hoarded gold, ravaged villages, and demanded heroic feats to be subdued. The contrast is stark, yet the fascination is universal. Dragons embody forces humans cannot control, magnified into form and story. The origin of the dragon myth is layered, a mixture of observation, fear, and imagination. In many regions, fossilized bones of dinosaurs or large prehistoric mammals were discovered long before humans understood them scientifically. Ancient peoples unearthed these enormous remnants and interpreted them as proof of living monsters. A massive rib or a jagged tooth became a dragon's limb or fawn. Volcanic eruptions, hurricanes, and the inexplicable fury of nature may have further fueled tales of winged, fire-breathing creatures. The dragon, then, was not born in the mind alone. It grew from the land itself, shaped by natural phenomena that demanded explanation. In this way, dragons are at once myth and memory of a world that predates human understanding, a bridge between prehistory and imagination. Medieval Europe, with its tangled forests and looming castles, offered the perfect backdrop for dragons of terror. In these stories, dragons are cunning, malevolent, and vast, often associated with sin, greed, and the trials of heroic knights. Tales of St. George slaying a dragon or Beowulf confronting monsters are not merely entertainment. They encode moral and cultural lessons. The dragon tests courage, wisdom, and virtue, representing the unknown dangers of a wild world and the internal struggles of the human spirit. The contrast between the dragon as a benevolent figure in one culture and a destructive force in another illuminates how environment, culture, and experience shape myth, and how the same basic impulse, to give form to overwhelming power, manifests differently across the world. Dragons also inhabit the skies, rivers, and seas, taking on characteristics of local habitats. The Japanese Ryu, for example, lives in rivers and rain clouds, linking water, harvest, and spiritual protection. European dragons often burrow underground or guard mountain treasures, embodying the peril of the unknown and the human desire to confront it. The physical forms of dragons, serpentine, winged, horned, scaled, are diverse, yet their symbolic weight is similar. They are intermediaries between worlds, forces too immense to control, representing both fear and reverence. The mind of humanity responds to what it cannot master by shaping it into a story, a creature that is at once tangible and ethereal. Fossil discoveries, often misinterpreted, played a subtle but crucial role in the shaping of dragons. In China, fossilized dinosaur remains were revered as dragon bones, ground into powders for medicine, and inscribed in local lore. In Europe, medieval scholars and villagers alike interpreted massive bones and skeletal fragments as proof of monstrous beasts, reinforcing belief in dragons as real entities. Science, centuries later, would uncover the origins of these bones, yet the cultural resonance of the dragon persisted. The creature had entered the human imagination so deeply that it became a fixture not only in myth but in art, ritual, and identity. Dragons also serve as mirrors, reflecting human fears and aspirations. The fiery breath of a dragon may symbolize volcanic destruction or warfare. Its vast horde may reflect human greed or the desire to protect what is precious. Dragons test heroes, communities, and nations becoming a canvas onto which societies project their values and anxieties. The dragon embodies the tension between chaos and order, between destruction and renewal, and between human limitation and the desire to reach beyond it. Its dual nature, feared and revered, destructive and protective, captures the essence of myth itself. A narrative born from observation, imagination, and the human need to understand forces beyond control. Even in modern times, dragons persist. They soar through literature, film, and games, often updated but never erased. They remind us that some myths endure because they speak to fundamental human experiences, the awe of nature, the struggle against overwhelming odds, and the allure of beings that transcend our ordinary understanding. From ancient fossil interpretations to medieval manuscripts, from the scrolls of China to the illuminated codices of Europe, dragons have consistently captured the human imagination. Their story is not simply about monsters, but about humanity's relationship with the immense and the unknown. As we trace the dragon across continents and centuries, it becomes clear that this creature exists in the liminal space between reality and myth, between observation and imagination. It is both born from the earth and the human mind, a creature as old as fear and as enduring as wonder. The dragon's shadow stretches across history, inviting us to explore not only the mysteries of the natural world, but also the depths of human creativity. In contemplating dragons, we confront our own need to define, to personify, and to navigate the forces that shape our existence. Thus, the dragon is more than a legend. It is a reflection of ourselves, our fears, our reverence for power, and our enduring curiosity. It embodies the paradox of myth, a creature we may never see, yet one whose presence is unmistakably real in the architecture of human thought. And as night falls, as the world grows quiet, the dragon waits in the shadows of imagination, a reminder that even in darkness, wonder endures, and some mysteries remain deliberately beyond our grasp. The ocean has always been a realm of both fascination and fear, a vast expanse that stretches beyond the limits of human vision, carrying secrets that defy comprehension. Its surface may glisten under the sun, calm and inviting, yet beneath the waves lies a world that is both alien and untamed. For early humans, the sea was not merely a source of food or travel. It was a living entity, unpredictable and immense, capable of giving life and taking it away without warning. In the absence of understanding, imagination filled the gaps. It is here, in the tension between curiosity and caution, that sea monsters were born. Tales of enormous serpents, enormous fish with glowing eyes, and leviathans that could drag entire ships beneath the waves became a way for humans to articulate awe and fear, to give form to the unknown, and to teach respect for a power that could not be controlled. Across cultures, the creatures of the deep took different forms, yet all shared a common function: to embody the mystery and danger of the ocean. In Norse sagas, sailors spoke of the kraken, a gargantuan beast whose tentacles could reach the masts of ships, dragging them down into the abyss. Mariners' accounts described whirlpools and currents as the movements of this unseen leviathan, giving meaning to forces they could not explain. Similarly, in Japanese folklore, the Yumabuzu haunted the seas, appearing as dark, towering figures to sailors caught in storms, a manifestation of the ocean's capricious nature. These stories were not idle fantasies. They were born of observation and experience, reflections of the dangers inherent in navigating uncharted waters. Sightings of whales, giant squids, or schools of unusual fish often became the basis for these myths. A breaching whale might appear to be a monstrous serpent. The long arms of squid might seem endless in the dark ocean depths. Even bioluminescent creatures could create the impression of ghostly lights or glowing eyes beneath the waves. Sailors, often isolated for months at a time and prone to hallucination from exhaustion, dehydration, and fear, were especially susceptible to perceiving the unknown as monstrous. These accounts were then shared in ports and villages, growing in scale and terror with each retelling, until the line between reality and legend blurred. Yet sea monsters were not purely fearsome. Many carried lessons, warnings, or symbols of natural order. Some were guardians of sacred waters, punishing those who disrespected the sea or its creatures. Others were reminders of human limitation, teaching humility in the face of nature's vastness. In Polynesian myths, enormous oceanic beings often represented both creation and destruction, reflecting the duality of the sea itself, nurturing yet merciless. In this way, the ocean became a canvas for human imagination, its depths populated with beings that mirrored our hopes, our fears, and our understanding of the natural world. Historical documentation adds another layer of intrigue. Ship logs, exploration journals, and maps often recorded sea serpents and leviathans alongside sightings of islands and currents. Even when explorers were skeptical, they included these reports as phenomena to be noted, proof that the unknown had weight in the minds of those who faced it daily. Over time, illustrations of these creatures appeared in books and maps, with serpentine bodies stretching across uncharted waters, their forms growing more elaborate and terrifying with each depiction. These visualizations reinforce the myth, embedding it in cultural memory. The allure of the deep is psychological as well as physical. The ocean represents the unknown in its purest form, vast, dark, and largely inaccessible. Unlike the forest, which can be navigated and observed, the depths of the sea conceal life forms, currents, and geological features that humans cannot fully comprehend. In projecting monsters into this environment, our ancestors were engaging in a form of storytelling that made the incomprehensible tangible. A massive creature might symbolize the unpredictability of nature, the fear of isolation, or the human fascination with what lies beneath the surface of perception. Even natural phenomena could inspire monstrous interpretations. Rogue waves, sudden storms, and floating debris became evidence of giant, unseen beings. The mysterious sounds of the ocean, from the distant calls of whales to underwater seismic activity, might be interpreted as voices or movements of sea creatures beyond understanding. In this way, the sea was both a literal and metaphorical frontier, challenging humanity to confront what is hidden, immense, and uncontrollable. Myths of sea monsters thus became an essential part of human culture, a way to navigate the tension between knowledge and the unknown. The sea continues to inspire mystery in the modern age, with sightings of enormous squid, deep-sea creatures with alien forms, and unexplored trenches that plunge miles below the surface. Yet the essence of the myth remains the same. The ocean is a realm where human imagination reaches its fullest expression, where the boundary between reality and legend becomes porous, and where stories of monsters serve as reminders of our smallness in the face of nature's enormity. In contemplating the ocean and its hidden inhabitants, we confront both external and internal depths, the mysteries of the world and the fears, dreams, and wonder within ourselves. The calm, rhythmic undulation of the waves, the steady pulse of tides, and the haunting call of distant whales form a backdrop to these tales. They lull the mind even as they stir the imagination, a duality that mirrors the function of the myths themselves, comforting and cautionary, serene yet terrifying. The stories of the sea are more than entertainment. They are tools of understanding, vessels for human emotion, and bridges between fact and mystery. They invite the listener to contemplate vastness, to respect forces beyond comprehension, and to embrace the beauty of the unknown. In the end, the creatures of the deep are not merely products of imagination, but reflections of the relationship between humanity and the ocean. They remind us that exploration is not only physical, but also mental, a journey into both the environment and the psyche. By giving form to the unfathomable, humans have made the sea comprehensible in narrative, even as its vastness remains awe-inspiring. The kraken, the yumabozu, the serpents and leviathans are not just monsters. They are the embodiment of our wonder, our fear, and our eternal longing to understand the world that stretches beyond the horizon. And as we peer into the dark waters at night, listening to the soft crash of waves against the shore, we feel that same mixture of reverence and curiosity that first gave birth to these stories so many centuries ago. The forest has always held a quiet magic, a rhythm and presence that is at once comforting and unsettling. Long before cities rose and roads cut through the landscape, dense woods stretched for miles, their canopies forming ceilings of shadowed green. Sunlight filtered through the leaves in shifting patterns, and every rustle, every crack, every distant bird call carried the possibility of life unseen. To the humans who lived alongside these forests, the woods were not merely a source of timber, food, and shelter. They were alive with spirits and hidden beings. In this dim, softly whispering world, the first stories of forest creatures emerged. Beings that could protect, guide, or challenge those who ventured into the undergrowth. These tales were the product of observation, imagination, and necessity, encoding lessons about survival, morality, and respect for the natural world. In European folklore, the forests teemed with fae and hidden folk, creatures whose motives were as mysterious as their forms. Some were helpful, leaving gifts for humans who respected their domain, while others were mischievous or even dangerous, punishing greed or arrogance. Travelers' tales spoke of fairies dancing in moonlit clearings, of small, capricious beings who could vanish at a glance. These beings, though imagined, were rooted in the human perception of the forest as both shelter and threat. The interplay of shadow and light, the shifting forms of leaves and branches, and the hidden sounds of nocturnal animals all contributed to a sense that the forest was inhabited by life beyond human comprehension. The stories gave form to this intuition, and in doing so, shaped a cultural understanding of the woods as a space both sacred and secretive. In Japan, the kodama, spirits of trees, were believed to dwell within ancient trunks, inhabiting the forest with a quiet, vigilant presence. Cutting down a tree inhabited by kodama could bring misfortune or death, a belief that taught respect for the environment and emphasized the interconnectedness of life. These myths framed the forest not as empty or inert, but as a living system filled with intelligence and agency. Similarly, in Slavic traditions, domovoi and leshi were guardians of the forest, capable of guiding, deceiving, or punishing humans depending on how they behaved. In every culture, there was an awareness that the woods were more than they seemed, a realm where the ordinary rules of life might bend, where humans were guests, and where unseen eyes watched carefully. The stories of forest creatures were often intertwined with lessons and cautionary guidance. Children were told of spirits who punished those who strayed too far or disrespected nature, instilling respect and attentiveness from an early age. Hunters learned which paths were safe, which areas were sacred, and how to behave with humility in the presence of something greater. The forest was a teacher, and the creatures that inhabited it were the language through which its wisdom was communicated. These tales offered more than fear. They offered understanding. In a world where the natural environment dictated survival, stories became a bridge between instinct and knowledge, turning observation into narrative and danger into metaphor. But the allure of forest creatures is not solely rooted in fear or morality. Many of these beings embody wonder, beauty, and transformation. The Irish Sidhe, ethereal beings living beneath mounds or in glens, could be both enchanting and dangerous, teaching humans to navigate curiosity with care. The Japanese tanuki, a shape-shifting creature often portrayed as playful and mischievous, blurred the line between humor and caution, reminding listeners that the forest was a place of endless surprises. Even in tales of menacing beings, such as the European Black Forest witches or Slavic night spirits, there's often a sense of reverence, an acknowledgement that the unknown deserves respect, and that humans are not the ultimate authority in a world filled with other forms of life. The forest, with its layers of shadow and light, creates an ideal canvas for the imagination. At twilight, shapes shift, sounds multiply, and the ordinary becomes extraordinary. A deer glimpsed through mist may be a guardian spirit. A strange silhouette behind a tree may be a wandering elf or an unseen fae. Humans, attuned to subtle signs for survival, interpreted these fleeting phenomena as the work of beings beyond comprehension. Through repeated storytelling, these interpretations became codified as legends, passed down through generations and refined with each retelling. The forest became a liminal space, a place of thresholds where the ordinary and the magical coexist. Moreover, forest creatures reflect humanity's deep connection to the natural world. They often embody the traits we notice and admire in animals: cunning, strength, patience, and grace, while amplifying them to supernatural levels. The lessons embedded in these myths are subtle yet enduring. Respect life, tread lightly, honor the cycles of nature, and recognize that humans are only one part of a larger ecosystem. In essence, the myths are ecological wisdom, wrapped in narrative, designed to keep humans aware of the delicate balance surrounding them. In listening to these stories, one can almost feel the rustle of leaves in the wind, the distant howl of a wolf, or the quiet gaze of something unseen in the shadows. The tales lull the mind while simultaneously stirring it, a delicate interplay of comfort and unease. They invite contemplation of a world where humans are not always the center, where mysteries abound just beyond perception, and where the forest itself is alive with narrative potential. This sense of wonder, combined with caution, made the stories powerful tools for memory and teaching, ensuring that each new generation grew up with an intimate understanding of both the forest and the imagination it inspired. Ultimately, forest creatures are more than folklore. They are expressions of humanity's perception of life, morality, and the unknown. They embody the delicate dance between fear and fascination, survival and creativity, observation and imagination. Through them, humans learn to navigate the dark spaces of the world, both literally and metaphorically. They remind us that even in the quietest glens and densest woods, life moves beyond what we can see, and that mystery can coexist with understanding, forming a bridge between the real and the imagined, the natural and the supernatural. As the canopy sways gently and the last rays of sunlight fade, the forest settles into a tranquil rhythm. In its quiet, unseen inhabitants linger, guardians, tricksters, guides, waiting not to harm, but to remind us of a time when humans were deeply attuned to the living world around them. Listening to their stories, we are invited to step softly into that rhythm, to respect the hidden, and to appreciate the timeless magic that dwells beneath the leaves. In these tales, the forest lives not only as trees and soil, but as a living archive of human imagination, memory, and reverence, carrying the whispers of countless generations across the centuries. In the quiet valleys and rolling hills of ancient landscapes, a subtle sense of the hidden has always lingered. Hills were not merely earth and stone. They were thresholds, veils, and gateways to realms that existed alongside the human world but remained out of reach. Across cultures, these natural formations were thought to conceal entrances to otherworldly domains, homes to beings unseen by ordinary eyes. The Celts spoke of the otherworld, a parallel dimension of fae and spirits, often accessed through mounds and hills where the veil between realities thinned. In Scandinavia, the underhills were said to shelter elves and hidden folk, beings who could influence human affairs for good or ill. From the earliest stories, there is a persistent idea that beneath the surface, the world holds secrets, and that what is unseen may be as vital as what is known. This quiet belief in hidden realms served both as explanation and as caution. Mysterious sounds echoing from hillsides, strange lights flickering at night, or unexpected animal behaviors were interpreted as signs of life beyond the ordinary. Communities passed down these observations as legends, warning travelers and children to respect the land. To wander recklessly or disrespect the hidden dwellers could bring misfortune or misadventure. In this way, myths about hills and hidden worlds were not only fantastical, they were practical, encoding wisdom about the land and its dangers while cultivating an awareness of the mysteries woven into the natural environment. The hidden folk themselves were complex figures in these narratives. They were rarely entirely benevolent or malevolent. Their morality was conditional, tied to human behavior and the respect shown to them. In Ireland, the Sidhe, fairies dwelling in mounds, could grant blessings or curses depending on how humans approached them. In the Scandinavian tradition, elves and trolls could assist in farming or craftwork if treated correctly, but they could also punish arrogance or greed. These beings reflected humanity's understanding that life is intertwined with forces larger than ourselves, forces that are sometimes visible, sometimes invisible, yet always impactful. The concept of hidden worlds beneath hills also extends beyond Europe. In Asia, cave systems and secluded groves were thought to house spirits or ancient guardians. In Polynesia, certain hills and stones were considered sacred, inhabited by deities or ancestral spirits, and human interaction with these spaces was governed by strict customs and rituals. The underlying idea is universal. The surface of the earth is only a fraction of what exists, and beneath, there's a rich, often dangerous, unseen reality. Myths about these hidden realms bridge the tangible and intangible, the visible and invisible, reminding humans that their perception is limited and that mystery pervades the world at every scale. Interestingly, the narratives surrounding hills and hidden realms also explore human curiosity. Many stories begin with a human attempting to access or glimpse the other world, only to encounter tests, riddles, or transformations. These tales acknowledge the allure of the unknown, illustrating both the desire to explore and the inherent risks of venturing beyond ordinary boundaries. In this sense, the hills and hidden worlds serve as metaphors for the mind itself, places where secrets dwell, thresholds that challenge understanding, and territories that demand respect and humility. They teach that not all mysteries are meant to be solved, and that some doors remain closed for a reason. These myths also highlight a recurring motif in human culture: liminality. Hills, mounds, and natural thresholds are not only geographical features. They're symbolic spaces where ordinary life intersects with the extraordinary. They exist at the margins, where human perception fades and imagination takes hold. It is no coincidence that entrances to otherworldly realms are often described as hidden, obscured, or accessible only under certain conditions: a specific time, a ritual, or an act of reverence. Through these stories, humans were encouraged to observe, to wonder, and to recognize that the ordinary world is only a fragment of the greater mystery that surrounds it. In listening to these tales, one senses a calm but persistent reminder: the unseen matters. Even when hills appear silent and still, they carry histories, energies, and presences beyond the ordinary. The hidden folk, elves, and spirits of mounds serve as guardians of that knowledge, teaching that respect, patience, and attentiveness are essential to navigating the world. They are quiet instructors, guiding humans to see more than what meets the eye, to perceive patterns and meanings in the subtle shifts of the landscape. The beauty of these myths lies not only in their imagination, but in their enduring resonance. Modern explorers, hikers, and storytellers continue to feel the pull of the hidden, whether it is in legends of treasure buried beneath mounds, ancient ruins half swallowed by earth, or unexplained phenomena that stir the senses. These narratives invite reflection, encouraging us to consider that beneath the surface of our daily lives, as beneath the hills themselves, mysteries remain waiting, patient, silent, and enduring. As night falls across the landscape, the soft silhouette of hills against the sky reminds us of thresholds. They are markers of transition, places where the familiar ends and the unknown begins. The hidden worlds they contain, whether imagined remembered, or yet to be discovered, whisper the same timeless message, that the universe is deeper, richer, and more mysterious than what is immediately visible. By honoring these stories, we step gently into a tradition of wonder, listening to the quiet echoes of ancestors who sensed, in the silent hills, the pulse of unseen life and the enduring call of the hidden. The ocean has long been a place of allure and danger, a vast and unknowable expanse that has both nourished and terrified humanity. Among its many mysteries, none have captivated the imagination more than the creatures said to dwell just beyond the reach of the human eye: sirens, mermaids, and nymphs who embody both beauty and peril. These beings are not merely fantastical. They represent the tension between desire and danger, curiosity and caution. In the earliest accounts from Greek mythology, sirens lured sailors with their irresistible song, drawing them toward treacherous rocks and waves. The very voice of the siren becomes a metaphor for temptation, the irresistible call of the unknown that promises pleasure but conceals risk. It is a cautionary tale wrapped in the seductive imagery of the sea, reflecting human fascination with what lies beyond control. Mermaids, too, are found in cultures across the globe, each reflecting local environments and fears. In medieval Europe, they were often depicted as beautiful women with fish tails, sometimes benevolent, sometimes dangerous, embodying the mystery of the sea and its unpredictable moods. In Africa and the Caribbean, water spirits such as Mami Wata were venerated as powerful, complex beings, capable of both blessing and punishing. Polynesian legends speak of supernatural beings who inhabit lagoons and reefs, influencing fishing success and weather patterns. In all these stories, the creatures of the water act as intermediaries between humans and the ocean, symbols of a world both vital and unknowable. The origins of these myths are often rooted in observation, misinterpretation, and a human tendency to personify natural phenomena. Manatees, dugongs, and other aquatic mammals may have inspired sightings of mermaids, particularly by sailors isolated at sea for months on end. Bioluminescent creatures glowing in the depths could be imagined as ethereal spirits or ghostly eyes watching from the dark. Even the shifting tides, the reflection of moonlight, and the eerie calls of distant whales contributed to a sense that the ocean was alive with beings beyond human perception. In giving these forces form and narrative, humanity made the unknown tangible and emotionally resonant. Yet the myth of the siren is not solely one of danger. It is also a story about the power of voice, allure, and intelligence. The siren sings with knowledge of human desire, using intellect and charm rather than brute force. In this, these legends reflect an understanding of the human psyche, that some forces cannot be resisted simply by strength, but must be navigated with awareness, patience, and wisdom. Sailors' tales of encountering such beings often end in both loss and revelation, highlighting that contact with the unknown may be transformative, even when it is perilous. Mermaids, too, embody duality. They are beautiful yet potentially lethal, seductive yet distant, alluring yet untouchable. This duality mirrors the ocean itself. It sustains life but can take it away. It offers discovery but conceals peril. It reflects our desires but remains fundamentally unknowable. In some traditions, mermaids could grant fertility, heal illness, or impart knowledge of the seas, demonstrating that these beings are not one-dimensional monsters, but complex symbols of the interdependence between humans and nature. Their stories teach respect, caution, and humility, as well as wonder and admiration for the mystery of life beyond our reach. The siren and mermaid myths also explore human emotions projected onto nature. Loneliness, longing, desire, and fear are all entwined with these tales, particularly for those who spend long periods at sea. Sailors isolated for weeks or months could experience hallucinations or heightened imagination, and these psychological experiences became stories passed down in ports and harbors. Over time, these narratives were codified into lore, art, and literature, preserving not only the memory of the ocean's dangers, but also the human emotional response to isolation, uncertainty, and beauty. Across cultures, the ocean's mystical inhabitants serve as reminders that beauty and danger are often inseparable. The soft song of a siren, the shimmer of a mermaid's tail, the sudden appearance of a luminous figure beneath moonlight, all evoke both fascination and trepidation. In these myths occupy a liminal space, balancing fear with desire, caution with curiosity. They remind humans that the unknown cannot be fully mastered, and that encounters with it require respect and attentiveness. The ocean becomes a mirror of human experience, where external peril reflects internal emotional and moral landscapes. Even in the modern imagination, mermaids and sirens endure. They appear in literature, film, art, and folklore, sometimes reimagined, sometimes faithful to their ancient depictions. Yet their essence remains, beings that teach us about longing, temptation, the power of the unknown, and the beauty and danger of nature. They remind us that some mysteries cannot be resolved, only experienced and respected. In contemplating these figures, we recognize the ocean not just as water and wave, but as a vast stage for human imagination and psychological reflection. In the quiet, rhythmic sound of the tide, the soft crash of waves against the hull of a ship, and the shimmer of moonlight across a restless sea, one can almost feel the presence of these beings. They are not merely creatures of legend, but manifestations of the human need to personify what cannot be fully understood, to make sense of the vast and the unknowable, and to navigate both physical and emotional landscapes. The siren's song continues to echo, a lullaby and a warning, calling us to remember the delicate balance between curiosity and caution, beauty and danger, wonder and respect. Through these stories, the ocean becomes a living entity, mysterious, alluring, and inexhaustibly complex. It teaches that while humans may venture far, we are always in dialogue with forces greater than ourselves. The sirens, mermaids, and nymphs are symbols of that dialogue, creatures born of observation, imagination, and the endless human yearning to explore what lies just beyond the horizon. As the waves roll and fade into the night, they remind us that some of the world's most profound lessons come not from what we can see or control, but from what lies hidden beneath the surface, singing softly, patiently, and eternally. Mountains have always held a unique presence in human imagination. Towering, immovable, and eternal, they inspire awe and reverence, and they are natural thresholds between the known and the unknown. Their peaks pierce the clouds, their slopes conceal shadowed valleys, and their sheer scale renders human life insignificant by comparison. From the earliest times, humans have looked at mountains not merely as geographical features, but as realms inhabited by spirits, giants, and mystical beings. In myths across the world, mountains are depicted as homes to powerful creatures, guardians of treasures, keepers of wisdom, or harbingers of danger. They stand as silent witnesses to the passage of time, their shadows long, their peaks shrouded in clouds, and their depths echoing with stories that have been whispered across generations. In Greek mythology, Mount Olympus is not just a mountain, but the dwelling of the gods, the axis of the universe, a place where mortals cannot tread lightly. The gods themselves reflect human qualities magnified and immortalized, yet the mountain is the stage upon which their stories unfold, a reminder of the distance between divine power and human limitation. In the Himalayas, local traditions speak of yetis, elusive, towering beings that wander snow-covered slopes, inspiring both fear and curiosity. The legends of these creatures are entwined with the natural environment. The harsh climate, the treacherous terrain, and the isolation of high-altitude regions contribute to the sense that humans are intruders in a domain that is not theirs to command. Similarly, in the Andes, mountains are believed to be inhabited by apis, protective spirits that watch over communities and influence the weather, agriculture, and well-being of those living in their shadows. Across continents, mountains carry the same duality. They are majestic and inspiring, yet dangerous and enigmatic, their legends as towering as the peaks themselves. The creatures that dwell in these high places often embody both the extraordinary and the moral. Giants, for example, appear in European folklore as beings of immense strength, testing the courage and wisdom of humans who encounter them. In Norse tales, trolls dwell in the mountains and caves, sometimes destructive, sometimes neutral, reflecting the unpredictable and formidable nature of the terrain itself. These stories often serve as allegories, teaching lessons about humility, respect, and perseverance in the face of forces larger than ourselves. Mountains, by their very nature, challenge humans physically and psychologically, and the legends surrounding them are ways of understanding that challenge through narrative. Mountains also evoke mystery because of their inaccessibility. Snow-capped peaks, hidden valleys, and sheer cliffs limit human observation, leaving vast areas unexplored and fertile for imagination. Strange sounds echoing through passes, sudden avalanches, or peculiar footprints in the snow have historically been interpreted as signs of hidden beings. Stories of giants, spirits, or monstrous animals often arise from these interpretations, blending observation with myth. Even today, mountaineers report unexplained sightings or phenomena, a testament to the enduring power of these landscapes to evoke wonder and suspicion. The mountain is a threshold, a liminal space where the known world ends and the realm of imagination begins. In many cultures, mountain creatures embody duality. They can be protective and nurturing, yet fearsome and destructive. The Yeti is sometimes described as a guardian of the high-altitude forests, keeping balance in the ecosystem, yet its immense power also inspires terror. The Apis of the Andes watch over villages and crops, yet failure to respect their domains can bring misfortune. This duality mirrors the broader human relationship with nature. Awe and admiration coexist with fear and caution, reverence balanced by the understanding that some forces cannot be controlled. Mountains, through these myths, become teachers, conveying lessons about coexistence, respect, and the humility required to navigate a world larger than ourselves. The symbolic resonance of mountains extends beyond physical geography. They are metaphors for aspiration, challenge, and the pursuit of knowledge. Just as humans climb toward peaks seeking conquest or enlightenment, the legends of their inhabitants serve as guides and warnings. They remind us that the journey into the unknown is never purely physical. It is also mental and spiritual. The creatures that populate mountains are embodiments of the obstacles, wisdom, and mysteries encountered along the way, shaping not only the landscape, but the human experience within it. Even today, mountains continue to inspire stories of mystery and fascination. From Himalayan Yeti expeditions to the haunted peaks of Europe, mountains retain their enigmatic aura. Their legends endure because they speak to something fundamental in humanity: the need to personify and narrate the unknown, to give shape to forces that cannot be fully understood or controlled. In doing so, these myths preserve a connection between humans and the natural world, a reminder that the planet's grandeur carries both beauty and peril, and that wonder often resides where we cannot fully tread. In contemplating mountains and their legendary inhabitants, one senses a profound lesson: that nature's majesty is inseparable from its mystery. Peaks and valleys, cliffs and passes, snow and rock, all are canvases for human imagination, carrying stories that blend fear, respect, and fascination. The legends of giants, yetis, Apis, and other mountain beings invite us to explore both the external world and the inner landscapes of awe and caution. They remind us that while humans may measure, map, and climb, some domains remain fundamentally untamed, their truths partially obscured, their stories carried not in maps, but in memory, myth, and whispered tales beneath the shifting clouds. As twilight falls on a rugged peak, and shadows stretch across the valleys below. The mountains seem to breathe. The wind carries ancient whispers, and the silence is punctuated only by distant echoes, as if the land itself remembers every story ever told. In this liminal space between rock and sky, between human curiosity and the unknowable, the creatures of legend continue to live, not always in form, but in the persistent pulse of imagination, waiting to teach, to warn, and to remind us of the mysteries that endure long after we have descended to the valleys below. Deserts are often imagined as barren wastelands, stretches of sand and stone where life clings stubbornly to survival. Yet for those who inhabit or traverse these vast, sun-scorched landscapes, deserts have always been alive with mystery, beauty, and danger. The shifting dunes, endless horizons, and sudden mirages create a sense of disorientation, where the ordinary rules of perception seem to falter. In these spaces, humans have long imagined creatures that could explain what they could not see or understand. Beings born of heat, wind, and scarcity, creatures that embody both the peril and the enchantment of the desert. These beings are more than myths. They are expressions of human adaptation, survival, and the need to navigate a world where life and death hang in delicate balance. In the folklore of North Africa, the desert is home to jinn, supernatural entities of immense power that inhabit the sands, rocks, and ruins. Jinn are shapeshifters, sometimes benevolent, sometimes malevolent, and often invisible, moving with the wind and influencing human affairs. Travelers' tales describe sudden sandstorms as the movement of unseen jinn, while strange sounds or flickering lights are signs of their presence. These legends serve multiple functions, explaining natural phenomena, offering cautionary guidance to those who journey through dangerous terrain, and providing narratives that capture the imagination while teaching survival. Jinn represent the invisible forces of the desert itself, unpredictable, untamable, and powerful. Similarly, in Australian Aboriginal traditions, the desert is inhabited by spirit beings such as the Wandjina, ancestral figures who shape the land, control weather, and teach moral lessons. These beings are intimately connected to the landscape, their presence recorded in rock art and oral histories that stretch back millennia. They demonstrate a deep understanding of ecological balance and human responsibility. Survival in the desert requires respect for the land, for water sources, and for the cycles that sustain life. Mythical creatures in the desert, then, are not merely frightful tales. They are cultural compasses, encoding knowledge essential for living in harmony with a harsh and unforgiving environment. The physical environment of deserts has always shaped the imagination. Mirage-like heat waves, shifting sands, and rare but sudden storms produce phenomena that can seem supernatural. Footprints appear and disappear, dunes rise and fall, and the vast emptiness amplifies sound and shadow. In such a landscape, the human mind naturally projects meaning and agency onto the inexplicable. A sandstorm may become a guardian spirit. A lone tree may shelter a trickster being. In this way, desert myths are grounded in observation, amplified by human imagination, and carried through storytelling, preserving both practical knowledge and cultural wonder. Many desert creatures embody duality, reflecting both the generosity and the danger of the environment. In some tales, spirits provide guidance to lost travelers or lead humans to hidden water sources. In others, they punish arrogance, disrespect, or greed, manifesting as mirages, sudden storms, or other natural perils. This duality mirrors the desert itself, a place of stark beauty and deadly hazards, requiring vigilance, respect, and adaptability. Myths of desert creatures are, in essence, survival stories wrapped in narrative, blending observation with creativity to communicate complex lessons about living in extreme conditions. Desert myths also reveal humanity's fascination with transformation and illusion. Shape-shifting beings, spirits that appear and vanish, and mirages that trick the senses are recurring motifs. These stories echo the psychological effects of the environment. Long days under a blazing sun, nights of cold, isolation, and endless horizon, all of which heighten perception and amplify the imagination. The myths are an extension of human experience, dramatizing the extraordinary effects of the desert on mind and body. Through them, humans are taught to respect limits, recognize signs, and navigate both physical and psychological landscapes. Beyond survival, desert creatures often symbolize moral, spiritual, or psychological lessons. Jinn and spirits test patience, humility, and discernment. Trickster beings challenge assumptions and reward cleverness or compassion. Legends of enormous serpents, sand-dwelling monsters, or mystical birds teach that not all is as it seems, and that wisdom often comes from observation, caution, and humility. In these arid spaces where resources are scarce and danger can emerge suddenly, such narratives are essential for maintaining connection to the land, the community, and the unseen forces that govern existence. Even in modern times, desert myths endure, influencing literature, film, and local storytelling. Expeditions through the Sahara, the Australian outback, or the deserts of the American Southwest continue to report strange lights, mysterious footprints, or unexplainable phenomena. While science often provides rational explanations, the legends persist because they capture something essential about human experience. The desert is both physical and psychological, a realm where survival, observation, imagination, and caution intersect. The creatures of legend remind us that emptiness is rarely empty and that every grain of sand carries the potential for wonder, danger, or revelation. Listening to these tales, one begins to sense the rhythm of the desert, the whisper of the wind, the slow shift of dunes, the distant cry of a nocturnal creature. Within this rhythm, the mythical beings live, teaching respect, caution, and awe. They are companions to travelers and reminders of the unseen, mediators between the tangible and the mysterious. Through them, the desert is transformed from a barren expanse into a living, breathing landscape of stories, wisdom, and imagination, where humans learn to navigate both the environment and the mysteries that reside within it. Ultimately, desert creatures of legend are expressions of humanity's interaction with one of the harshest and most beautiful environments on Earth. They are born from observation, imagination, and necessity, existing in the liminal space between survival and wonder. They teach that life in extreme conditions requires attentiveness, respect, and humility, and they remind us that the world's mysteries are often found in the places where human endurance is tested to its limits. As night falls and the desert cools under a sky studded with stars, these beings continue to inhabit the imagination, silent yet ever-present, urging reflection, vigilance, and reverence for the hidden powers of the world. Rivers and lakes have long been perceived as more than mere sources of water. They are lifelines, mirrors of the sky, and corridors into the unknown. Flowing gently or raging violently, these bodies of water have inspired myths and legends, giving rise to creatures whose forms are as varied as the landscapes they inhabit. From the misty rivers of Europe to the expansive lakes of Africa and Asia, humans have always sensed that beneath the calm surface lies a world of mystery, inhabited by beings that could heal, harm, or enchant. The reflective surface of water becomes a threshold, a liminal space between what is seen and unseen, a place where imagination and reality intertwine. In Celtic mythology, rivers were sacred, often inhabited by spirits known as water fae or nixies. These beings were believed to emerge from the water to interact with humans, sometimes offering guidance, sometimes luring travelers into danger. The stories reflect an intimate relationship with water, a recognition of its power to sustain life, its unpredictability, and its capacity to conceal unknown forces. In Germanic folklore, the Nyx, a male water spirit, could shapeshift and drag unsuspecting swimmers into rivers, embodying the duality of water itself, nurturing yet potentially deadly. Such myths serve as practical warnings as much as entertainment, teaching communities to respect the currents, the depth, and the life that thrived within these aquatic realms. Lakes, too, have been the settings for countless legends. The Scottish lochs teem with tales of enormous serpents and water monsters, creatures that appear suddenly, disturb the calm waters, and vanish without a trace. Loch Ness, perhaps the most famous, has captured imaginations for centuries, with reports of a mysterious, long-necked creature surfacing in the depths. While some sightings can be explained by misidentified animals, optical illusions, or floating debris, the persistence of the legend speaks to a deeper human fascination, the sense that vast bodies of water are home to life beyond human comprehension, a living mystery that eludes observation and control. Across continents, rivers and lakes also serve as moral landscapes, where creatures test human virtue, humility, or cleverness. In Japanese folklore, kappa inhabit rivers, mischievous yet respectful beings who may help humans if treated properly, or drag them underwater if disrespected. The kappa embodies lessons in etiquette, respect for nature, and awareness of surroundings. In Africa, water spirits are often linked to fertility, abundance, and protection, reminding communities of the interconnectedness of human life and aquatic ecosystems. These beings are rarely malevolent without reason. Instead, they mirror human behavior, rewarding caution, reverence, and wisdom while punishing arrogance or carelessness. The physical environment of rivers and lakes naturally encourages the imagination. Fog rolling over a still lake, the shimmering reflection of moonlight, sudden ripples in calm water, or the glimmer of fish beneath the surface all inspire narratives. Human perception, heightened by anticipation or fear, often fills in gaps, giving rise to detailed legends. The unknown depths become a canvas for projection, allowing communities to encode knowledge about natural hazards, fish behavior, and seasonal changes into memorable, entertaining, and cautionary stories. Many water-dwelling creatures embody duality, reflecting the life-giving and dangerous aspects of water. They can rescue or harm, enlighten or deceive, appearing suddenly and vanishing just as quickly. The uncertainty of their presence mirrors the shifting, fluid nature of rivers and lakes, where calm can turn to chaos in an instant. In this way, aquatic myths serve as both psychological and ecological guides, teaching respect for the environment while enriching human imagination. The enduring fascination with water creatures is evident even in contemporary culture. From Nessie of Scotland to lake monsters in North America, from cinematic portrayals of sirens to illustrated folklore, these legends continue to captivate the human mind. They remind us that water is never truly still. Beneath the surface lies a world that challenges comprehension, blurs boundaries, and invites wonder. Rivers and lakes are thus more than geographic features. They're stages for the interaction between humans, nature, and the imagination. Listening to the soft lapping of water against the shore, one can almost hear the whispers of the beings that legends claim inhabit these realms. They are guardians, tricksters, and messengers, embodying the rhythm of the currents, the silence of deep waters, and the unseen forces that shape life along their banks. Their stories encourage careful observation, mindfulness, and a recognition that the familiar surface may conceal depths of untold complexity. In doing so, these myths cultivate a sense of reverence for water, for the unknown, and for the balance between human life and the natural world. Ultimately, rivers and lakes are portals into both the physical and psychological unknown. The creatures of legend that dwell within them remind us that life is not confined to what is immediately visible, and that even the calmest waters may harbor forces beyond understanding. They are embodiments of mystery, guardians of natural law, and mirrors of human emotion, reflecting fear, curiosity, and wonder. As night falls and mist rises from the water, these beings linger in imagination, urging contemplation, respect, and awe. Through them, humanity learns that the world is layered, fluid, and endlessly mysterious, and that the line between reality and legend is as shifting and deep as the waters themselves. Forests and mountains may hold stories of mystery and wonder, but caves and underground realms occupy a unique space in human imagination, drawing attention to what lies beneath rather than above. From the earliest times, humans have ventured into dark, enclosed spaces, whether seeking shelter, minerals, water, or ritual sites. The subterranean world evokes a combination of fascination and fear. It is protective yet potentially deadly, silent yet alive with unseen movements. In these shadow domains, myths of hidden creatures and spirits took root, giving form to the unknown and serving as metaphors for the unseen aspects of life, death, and the human psyche. The cave is both physical and symbolic, a threshold between the ordinary world and a realm where natural and supernatural forces converge. In European folklore, underground realms are often inhabited by dwarves, gnomes, and trolls. These beings are intimately tied to the earth. They guard treasures, forge tools and weapons, and live in the heart of mountains and mines. The dwarves of Norse and Germanic myth, for example, are master craftsmen, creating objects of immense beauty and power, yet they're also secretive and enigmatic, appearing only to those who earn their trust. Similarly, in Celtic traditions, fairy mounds and underground passageways are gateways to hidden worlds where small, magical beings dwell. These myths reflect a deep human awareness of the subterranean world as both resource-rich and potentially perilous, blending practical knowledge with imaginative storytelling. Caves also carry profound symbolic weight, often associated with transformation, initiation, and spiritual journeys. Many ancient cultures used caves for rituals, burials, or meditation, seeing them as portals to other realms. In Mesoamerican traditions, caves were entrances to the underworld, spaces where humans could communicate with gods, ancestors, or spirits. The shadows, stalactites, and echoing chambers amplified the sense of mystery, reinforcing the idea that beneath the surface lies a world governed by different laws and inhabited by extraordinary beings. In this way, the subterranean is both a literal and metaphorical space of discovery, fear, and enlightenment. The creatures of underground myths often embody duality. They can bring fortune or disaster, protection or punishment. Trolls and goblins in Scandinavian lore might mislead travelers or guard hidden treasures, their actions reflecting human behavior and the importance of respect, patience, and cleverness. Similarly, the dwarves and gnomes of European myth reward skill, honesty, and humility, emphasizing that mastery of the underground, whether in mining, craft, or understanding, requires ethical conduct and attentiveness. These narratives encode lessons about human interaction with the environment, as well as moral and social values, blending survival knowledge with imagination. Underground myths are also grounded in observation and natural phenomena. Echoes, sudden drafts, dripping water, and the presence of minerals or fossils could all be interpreted as signs of hidden life. Ancient humans, encountering strange shapes, unusual rocks, or skeletal remains, might conceive of creatures adapted to life beneath the earth. Over time, repeated storytelling transformed these observations into elaborate narratives of dwarves, trolls, and subterranean spirits, embedding them in local culture and art. Caves, mines, and natural tunnels became settings for legend, teaching that the unseen world is alive and impactful even when hidden from view. Many subterranean legends also explore psychological and existential themes. The underground is a space of darkness, withdrawal, and introspection, and the creatures that dwell there often symbolize the hidden or repressed aspects of life and consciousness. Myths about beings who lurk in shadows or guard secret knowledge reflect humanity's fascination with what is concealed, both in the environment and within the self. Journeys into caves become metaphorical journeys into the unknown, where courage, perception, and morality are tested, and where encounters with mysterious creatures offer lessons that extend beyond the physical realm. Across cultures, the subterranean is closely tied to treasure, wealth, and sacred knowledge. The dwarves of Norse myth craft magical weapons. The gnomes of European tales guard gold, and spirits of Mesoamerican caves protect ceremonial artifacts. This recurring theme suggests that humans have always associated the earth beneath them with hidden potential, resources, and mysteries, both material and spiritual. Creatures of legend serve as custodians of this potential, teaching respect for what lies beneath and reinforcing the idea that the underground is a space where human curiosity meets forces that cannot be fully controlled. Even in modern imagination, subterranean myths endure. Explorers of deep caves, spelunkers, and adventure seekers continue to report eerie sounds, strange formations, or glimpses of creatures, echoing the ancient human response to these mysterious spaces. Literature, film, and folklore perpetuate these themes, emphasizing the allure and danger of the underground. Caves remain liminal spaces, places where imagination thrives and where the boundary between reality and legend is fluid, echoing the enduring human need to personify and narrativize the unknown. Listening to the dripping of water, the echo of footsteps, or the distant rumble of unseen movement, one can almost sense the creatures of legend inhabiting these subterranean worlds. They are guardians, tricksters, and guides, reflecting both the physical and moral landscapes of human life. Through them, the underground becomes a realm of instruction and reflection, a space that teaches vigilance, respect, and humility, while simultaneously inviting wonder and imagination. Ultimately, the subterranean is a mirror of human curiosity and caution. The creatures that inhabit it, dwarves, trolls, spirits, remind us that even beneath the familiar surface, there are worlds that remain mysterious, rich with possibility, and alive with narrative potential. They teach that exploration requires both courage and reverence, that some knowledge is guarded, and that the unseen can be as influential as the visible. As darkness fills the caves and shadows stretch along their walls, the legends endure, inviting contemplation of what lies hidden beneath the earth and offering a quiet, persistent reminder that the world is far larger and more mysterious than it appears on the surface. The skies above have always been a canvas for human imagination, a vast expanse where mystery and wonder intertwine with observation and fear. From the earliest civilizations, humans looked upward, charting the movements of the sun, moon, and stars, and sensing that the heavens were inhabited by forces and beings beyond their understanding. Celestial phenomena, comets streaking across the night, meteors blazing briefly, the shimmer of planets and constellations, inspired awe, reverence, and the creation of myths. In these stories, creatures of the air, winged beings, and sky spirits emerge, bridging the gap between the tangible earth and the intangible heavens. The skies became a realm where the known met the unknowable, and where humanity projected both its fears and aspirations. In Greek mythology, winged creatures such as harpies, griffins, and Pegasus populate the sky, each serving symbolic and narrative purposes. Harpies, with their swift flight and unpredictable behavior, embodied danger and retribution, swooping down to enforce divine justice. Griffins, with their majestic blend of lion and eagle, guard treasures and sacred knowledge, representing both vigilance and power. Pegasus, the winged horse, is a symbol of inspiration and transcendence, capable of moving between realms. These creatures reflect humanity's fascination with flight, freedom, and the unknown, embodying traits that are both admirable and terrifying, and reinforcing the sense that the sky is a space of wonder and peril alike. Across other cultures, the sky is similarly filled with beings that blur the line between natural observation and imagination. In Native American traditions, Thunderbird is a mighty, winged creature that commands storms, thunder, and lightning. Its presence is both awe-inspiring and fearsome, a reminder that the forces of nature are unpredictable and powerful. In Chinese mythology, dragons soar through the clouds, governing rain, rivers, and cosmic order. They are revered as powerful, wise, and benevolent, yet their immense strength demands respect. These sky beings embody the duality of the heavens, nurturing yet formidable, illuminating yet overwhelming, reflecting humanity's attempt to understand and interact with forces far beyond control. Birds, too, often inhabit the realm between reality and legend. Eagles, owls, ravens, and other birds with extraordinary traits have been interpreted as messengers, guardians, or omens. The ability to traverse the air and survey the land from above positions them as liminal creatures, mediators between worlds. In many cultures, unusual or enormous birds are elevated to mythical status, their presence interpreted as a sign, warning, or blessing. Human fascination with flight, combined with the observation of strange or rare avian behavior, gave rise to elaborate myths that endure through art, folklore, and literature. The phenomena of the sky, auroras, eclipses, storms, and meteor showers, also inspire narratives of creatures and spirits. Sudden flashes of light, darkened skies, or unusual patterns were often attributed to the actions of celestial beings. Stories of sky serpents, thunderbirds, or firebird arose from attempts to explain these dramatic events, blending natural observation with cultural imagination. In this sense, sky myths serve both practical and symbolic purposes. They encode explanations for phenomena while also providing a framework for understanding power, morality, and cosmic order. Sky creatures often embody duality, much like their counterparts on land and sea. They can deliver blessings or calamities, reveal secrets or hide truths, and inspire courage or fear. Their liminal nature, existing between earth and heaven, makes them symbols of transition, guidance, and perspective. In myths where winged beings interact with humans, lessons about humility, vigilance, and respect for forces greater than ourselves are central. Humans are reminded that the heavens are vast, powerful, and often indifferent to human endeavor, and that awe and caution must coexist with curiosity. The psychological and spiritual dimensions of sky creatures are also profound. Flight represents freedom, transcendence, and aspiration, while the danger they pose reflects limitations and mortality. In this way, the sky becomes a mirror for human ambition and vulnerability, a place where the imagination can soar even as it confronts the infinite. Winged creatures, dragons, and spirits serve as guides in these metaphor journeys, teaching that understanding the world, or ourselves, often requires looking beyond the ground beneath our feet. Even in contemporary culture, sky myths continue to captivate. From dragons in literature and cinema to cryptid reports of enormous birds or flying creatures, humans remain fascinated by what occupies the air above. The persistence of these legends illustrates the enduring power of the sky as a space of imagination and contemplation, a realm where wonder and caution coexist, and where humanity projects its curiosity and fears onto the unseen expanse. Listening to the wind as it moves through treetops, across mountains, and over plains, one can almost sense the presence of these creatures, guardians, messengers, and spirits, whose existence reminds us of the vastness beyond our immediate perception. They inhabit the margins of visibility and comprehension, urging humans to respect the unknown and to appreciate the beauty and danger of forces beyond control. In this way, the sky is not merely a backdrop, but a living stage, inhabited by beings that inspire reverence, awe, and imagination. Ultimately, sky creatures remind us that the heavens are alive with mystery. They embody human fascination with freedom, power, and the unknown, bridging the tangible and intangible, the observed and imagined. As night falls and stars scatter across the expanse, these myths linger, inviting reflection on the delicate balance between curiosity and caution, the awe of what is beyond, and the enduring human desire to reach, imagine, and understand. The sky, with its infinite possibilities, remains a realm where the extraordinary can coexist with the everyday, where legend and observation dance together, and where the human mind finds endless room to wonder. Lightning, storms, and tempests have always commanded human attention, evoking awe, fear, and a deep sense of the unknown. The power of the sky unleashed in flashes of light, rolling thunder, and sudden gusts of wind has inspired countless myths of creatures and spirits who govern the forces of nature. Across cultures, these beings are imagined as both protectors and punishers, their presence reflecting the immense and unpredictable power of the natural world. From the first primitive humans observing lightning strike a tree, to sailors navigating violent storms at sea, the raw energy of tempests has been interpreted as the domain of supernatural forces, beings whose motives, strength, and intent remain inscrutable. In Norse mythology, Thor, the god of thunder, wields his hammer Mjolnir to command lightning and storms, striking down giants and protecting humans. His power illustrates a direct connection between human experience and natural phenomena, personifying the destructive and protective aspects of the storm. Similarly, in Greek myth, Zeus hurls thunderbolts from Mount Olympus, an expression of divine judgment, strength, and authority. These deities embody the duality of storms. They are terrifying yet necessary, destructive yet life-giving, and their influence is a reminder of human vulnerability in the face of forces far greater than ourselves. Storm-related creatures are not limited to gods. In Japanese folklore, Raijin, the thunder god, is depicted as a fearsome, drumming figure whose presence announces approaching tempests. African myths describe powerful spirits of wind and lightning that govern weather patterns and protect sacred spaces, while Native American traditions speak of Thunderbird, whose wing beats produce thunder and whose eyes flash lightning. These beings reflect the universal human attempt to interpret and navigate unpredictable forces through narrative, to assign agency and intention to phenomena that are otherwise beyond comprehension. The unpredictability of storms makes them ideal subjects for myth-making. Lightning strikes, torrential rain, tornadoes, and sudden tempests appear without warning, disrupting lives and landscapes. Observing these forces, humans naturally imagined intelligent entities behind them, assigning personality, morality, and intentionality to the chaos. A destructive lightning strike might be punishment for wrongdoing. A sudden storm might be a test of courage or humility. These narratives provided psychological comfort and cultural structure, allowing communities to understand, anticipate, and ritualize their interactions with volatile environments. Storm creatures often embody duality, reflecting both destruction and renewal. Lightning can ignite fires that renew forests, storms can nourish parched lands, and wind can carry seeds across great distances. Mythical beings that govern these forces, therefore, are not purely malevolent. They are agents of balance, ensuring that destruction and creation exist together. In this way, storms become moral and ecological metaphors. The creatures that inhabit them enforce laws, test humans, and maintain equilibrium, teaching lessons about respect, preparation, and humility. In addition to the natural, storm myths explore psychological and spiritual dimensions. The roar of thunder, the blinding flash of lightning, and the sudden violence of a tempest evoke deep emotional responses: fear, awe, exhilaration. They're projected on as supernatural entities. These creatures provide a framework for understanding the intensity of storms, allowing humans to conceptualize and interact with forces that are otherwise uncontrollable. They are both warnings and teachers, their narratives encoding survival strategies, ethical lessons, and the power of humility. The enduring presence of storm creatures in folklore illustrates the universality of human experience. From ancient texts to contemporary storytelling, lightning beings, thunder gods, and wind spirits continue to capture imagination. Their appeal lies in their embodiment of extremes: power, unpredictability, beauty, and terror. Through them, humans negotiate the tension between fascination and fear, learning to navigate a world that is often chaotic, awe-inspiring, and beyond control. Even in modern times, tales of storm creatures persist in art, literature, and oral traditions. Sailors still recount spirits of the sea who command tempests. Farmers speak of guardians who bring rain or wind, and storytellers continue to attribute meaning to lightning and thunder. These narratives reinforce human humility, awareness, and reverence for forces that cannot be dominated. They remind us that nature's power is both literal and symbolic, teaching lessons that resonate across generations. Listening to the rumble of thunder, the crack of lightning across the sky, or the howl of wind through trees, one can almost feel the presence of these legendary beings. They are not only destructive or fearsome, they are educators, guiding humanity's respect for the balance of life and the forces that sustain it. In storms, the extraordinary and the ordinary coexist. The elements remind us of our smallness, the beauty of natural power, and the enduring mystery of the world. Ultimately, storm creatures symbolize the dialogue between humanity and the elemental forces that shape our world. They embody power, unpredictability, and moral order, teaching that life involves navigating extremes and respecting forces beyond our control. As tempests rage and lightning flashes illuminate the night, these legends persist, offering a quiet, haunting reminder that the natural world is alive with energy, mystery, and beings whose presence challenges, inspires, and endures. They remind us that awe and humility are as vital as courage and curiosity, and that the extraordinary often hides within the familiar rhythms of wind and rain. Time has a way of softening the sharp edges of stories, yet legends persist, carried across generations as whispers from the past. Ancient civilizations recorded, retold, and embellished tales of creatures that lived at the boundaries of human perception, beings that were part natural, part supernatural, and entirely unforgettable. In this section, we journey into the historical roots of mythical creatures, exploring how they emerge from the intersection of observation, imagination, and human experience. The creatures that populate folklore are reflections of the cultures that conceive them, shaped by geography, environment, social values, and collective fears. By examining their origins, we uncover not only the stories themselves, but the human impulse to explain, understand, and give form to the unknown. In Mesopotamia, the earliest known civilization spoke of hybrid creatures like the Lamassu, guardians with the body of a bull, wings of an eagle, and the face of a human. These beings were both protective and intimidating, reflecting a culture deeply concerned with balance, order, and the forces that could threaten society. Their image adorned temples and city gates, blending the real and the imagined into a symbol of vigilance. Similarly, in ancient Egypt, deities such as Sobuk, the crocodile-headed god, and Sekhmet, the lion-headed goddess, embodied natural forces, human emotion, and divine authority. These figures demonstrate that even at the earliest stages of civilization, humans sought to personify the unknown and the powerful, creating creatures that could be worshipped, feared, or revered. The origins of mythical creatures often lie in a combination of observation and interpretation. Fossils, skeletal remains, or unusual animal behaviors frequently inspired stories of giants, dragons, and monsters. For example, the discovery of large prehistoric bones in Europe and Asia may have contributed to tales of cyclopes and enormous serpents. Early humans, lacking modern scientific frameworks, naturally interpreted these artifacts as evidence of beings who once roamed the earth, creatures of extraordinary size and strength that left traces for the imaginative mind to reconstruct. Such myths demonstrate the human capacity to merge evidence with creativity, crafting narratives that provide both wonder and explanation. Across cultures, mythical creatures often reflect moral and social lessons. In Greek mythology, the Minotaur, dwelling in the labyrinth, embodies the consequences of indulgence, secrecy, and human hubris. In Japanese folklore, kitsune, the fox spirits, represent cunning, intelligence, and the duality of human behavior, rewarding wisdom and punishing deceit. In African traditions, shape-shifting water spirits or trickster animals teach lessons about respect, morality, and community cohesion. These creatures, though fantastical, are deeply intertwined with societal values, serving as tools for education and cultural continuity. By embedding ethics and morality in myth, societies ensure that their stories are more than entertainment. They are guides to living within the unknown forces of nature and human interaction. Historical context also shapes the characteristics of mythical creatures. Environmental factors, local fauna, and natural hazards influence how creatures are depicted and what abilities they possess. Sea monsters emerge in cultures near treacherous waters. Mountain giants inhabit regions of rugged terrain, and desert spirits originate in arid landscapes. In this way, myths are inseparable from the lived experiences of the people who create them. They are maps of human perception, recording the dangers, mysteries, and wonders that surround daily life, while simultaneously offering a means of psychological and emotional processing of those realities. The endurance of these creatures, through time, speaks to their resonance with the human psyche. While the world has changed dramatically over millennia, the core fascination with the unknown remains. Myths are adapted, retold, and reinterpreted in literature, art, and oral tradition, reflecting evolving societies while preserving essential truths about human curiosity, fear, and imagination. Dragons, sirens, elves, and giants may take different forms across eras and continents, but their essence, the embodiment of mystery, power, and human engagement with the unknown, remains constant. Historical myths also reveal the interplay between fact and fiction. Travelers' tales, embellished reports, and second-hand accounts often became the foundation for new legends. Reports of strange animals or unfamiliar lands evolved into elaborate narratives, and over generations, these narratives became inseparable from cultural identity. In this way, mythical creatures function as repositories of history, memory, and imagination, preserving not only cultural knowledge, but the human need to grapple with the inexplicable. Through studying the origins of mythical creatures, we see that they are not mere inventions, but mirrors of human perception, values, and environmental interaction. They teach that human imagination has always been a tool for making sense of the unknown, whether in interpreting natural phenomena, enforcing moral behavior, or inspiring awe. These stories connect us with the past, allowing us to glimpse how our ancestors understood the world, confronted uncertainty, and found beauty and meaning in the mysterious. Ultimately, the historical roots of mythical creatures remind us that myths are enduring bridges between observation and imagination, reality and fantasy. They show that humans have always sought to give shape to the unknown, to narrate the invisible forces that surround them, and to instill lessons within tales of wonder and caution. As we reflect on the creatures that emerged from ancient times, we realize that they continue to resonate not only because of their fantastical forms, but because they reveal the timeless human need to explore, understand, and respect the vast mysteries of the world. As night settles gently over the landscapes of our imagination, the creatures of legend seem to awaken, not as threats, but as silent companions to our curiosity. Dragons may have never soared above mountains, yet their presence lingers in the flicker of stories told by firelight. Mermaids rise from the crests of waves in whispered tales, their beauty and mystery inviting us to ponder the depths of oceans we may never see. Even the shadowed forest spirits, cryptids, and hybrid beings inhabit the spaces between reality and imagination, reminding us that the unknown is not something to fear, but a realm to explore with gentle wonder. These legends are more than entertainment. They reflect our deepest hopes, fears, and the patterns of human thought. A dragon is fire and transformation. A mermaid is longing and freedom. A forest spirit is a lesson in respect for the unseen. Each story carries echoes of encounters with the natural world, with history, and with our own inner landscapes. Fossils hint at creatures long extinct. Strange sightings inspire wonder, and folklore preserves the fragile line between the known and the unknown. As moonlight drifts across misty hills and quiet waters, we are invited to linger in reflection. These creatures, whether real or imagined, remind us that mystery is not absence, it is presence. It is the gentle thrill of curiosity, the soft hum of stories that live in memory and dream alike. Tonight, dragons rest in hidden valleys, mermaids glide silently beneath the waves, and forest spirits watch from shadowed glens. In their quiet existence, they invite us to dream, to wonder, and to drift peacefully into slumber, carrying the calm, timeless magic of legend with us as we rest.